Writer-director Gareth Evans' newest film, Havoc, takes inspiration from several classic films and genres. When he first pitched the film, he pitched it as a love letter to two types of filmmaking: American crime films of the 70s and his love of Hong Kong action cinema. These were two different genres that influenced his script, but also were two genres that he wanted to play with. The French Connection by William Friedkin and Point Blank by John Boorman were specific crime films that influenced the writing of Havoc. The specific Hong Kong action films that inspired his script were Hard Boiled by John Woo and City on Fire by Ringo Lam Ling Tung. Evans' influences also informed Hardy's preparation for the role of Walker. Evans wanted the authenticity, presence, and grounded nature of a character from these films. So Hardy looked at Walker and how could I take Walker and put him in? And that sounds probably a bit abstract, but like The Wire. To prepare for the stunts of the film, Hardy trained intensely for a few months before the production to get into shape. But Hardy goes a step further and figures out his character's fighting style and how he'll incorporate that into the shoot. After he figures out a character's shell and understands what makes the character who they are, he tries to find out what sort of animal the character is. That's right, you heard me? An animal. All the characters he's played before, like Bane or Max Rokitansky, and now Walker, are usually described as primal and instinctive in the script. I don't really play many reptiles, you know? I kind of do hybrids sometimes, a reptilian work in stillness, he says. After that, he looks at what the planned choreography is with the stunt team and then works with them on what movements he can do with his own body. Since the stunt team is its own department, multiple people can be hired or brought on to do the movements and stunts that Hardy cannot. Hardy keeps up his physique thanks to his Brazilian jiu-jitsu training, but none of that martial arts form came to play. His character doesn't know jiu-jitsu, but it definitely gave Hardy the stamina, strength, and agility to do what was required of him as Walker. And since he's an action star of his own caliber, he is very good at knowing when he can do a stunt or action sequence himself and when he should step aside and let his longtime stuntman Jacob Tamuri come in and do the shot instead. In the case of Havoc, Tamuri usually stepped in when a scene or shot was more physically demanding for the actor or a safety issue was posed and was better handled by the veteran stunt professional. Tamuri has been stepping in as Hardy's stunt double for many previous action movies, like Mad Max and Venom, and after working alongside the actor for the last decade, Tamuri has understood how to mimic Hardy's performance in both his physicality and how he emotionally carries himself in a scene. As Evans says, so if Tom needs to walk, the hunch of the shoulders is the same. The way his arms are positioned is the same. So you don't feel like you cut from a shot of Tom Hardy performing his Walker to a stunt double just doing a stunt. It's an important performance continuity that helps the audience believe everything they see on screen.
It ain't up for discussion.
One of the biggest action set pieces of the film is when Walker battles a group of henchmen and dirty cops led by Timothy Olyphant's Vincent. The scene takes place in a spacious two-story nightclub and is set to Gesaffelstein's song Obsession. Evans revealed that the nightclub sequence took a very long time to film because there were many moving parts to it. Since the scene takes up 2 levels with movement of characters from the balcony floor to the ground floor and going through a tunnel to reach the outside of the club, Evans estimates that the whole sequence took approximately 3 weeks of shooting. Evans expressed in an interview, "I've never taken on a sequence of that scale that required that level of having to sustain the pace and the tension, as well as keeping track of the multiple POVs across the scene."
That all right? There gonna be a problem?
I'll give you 2 guesses.
According to the director, one of the most important things when designing an action sequence is to give the audience a roadmap of the geographical space. That way, no matter what happens in the space and scene, no matter how crazy the camera angles and the editing are, the audience does not get lost because you've shown them the space. To achieve this for the club scene, Evans and his cinematographer Matt Flannery planned a setup shot in which they did one long, big single one that takes the audience from Walker's car into the nightclub and then all around the club until we meet Mia, played by Kaylin Sepulveda. The scene itself is about 7 minutes long, which meant choreographing the action scene took time. This was done very early on in pre-production, even before Hardy joined the project. Since Evans also wrote the script, he says he never gets into detail about the action. "I always just give a sense of the space. This is the psychology, or the tone of the scene. Is it fast-paced? Is it slow? Is it fun? Or is it scary?" he says. He then adds 1 or 2 key moments that are important for the plot and the character. The nightclub scene ended up being just 3 or 4 paragraphs at most, and not even a full page. Evans credits his healthy working relationship with the stunt team and the action design team for pulling the action off. Jude Poyer was the stunt coordinator for the movie, and together with Evans, they created a space with crash mats and cardboard boxes, and choreographed every second of the action from the ground up. They would think and design the sequence shot by shot, and even plan how they would edit it in the end. Evans never shoots wide masters as coverage. Instead, he relies on shooting the action as jigsaw pieces, and then putting the action together in the editing room like a puzzle. So every shot he envisioned is specific in what it needs to show.
You don't get to walk away from this.
Jesus Christ, Walker.
The second biggest action sequence of the film is the final climactic set piece that involves more than just henchmen and dirty cops, but in a much smaller space. In fact, the scene happens inside the shack, outside the shack, and underneath the shack. This scene probably has the most memorable moment in the film, when Walker shoots a harpoon into the neck of a henchwoman and how her impaled body slowly slides down the wire from her wound. Now, when Evans was coming up with the action sequences for the story, he admits that certain action movements or kill scenarios do come to mind, and he writes them out. Sometimes there'll be a particular weapon or an item that I might think, oh, that could make an interesting weapon, he said in an interview. But he does mention that the only moments that end up making it into the final movie are the ones that pass the stunt team and producers' scrutiny. So when Evans wrote into the script the fish shack scene with the kill of the harpoon, it happened to be his favorite kill that passed the test. When he wrote out the scene, he spoke with his cinematographer about how the death has to be stretched beyond just your typical Hollywood kill shot. They need to go beyond the point of disbelief. Because of all of this attention to detail, the fishing shack scene was the one that took the longest. The most challenging aspect was tracking all the weapons. Since it was a confined space, several characters were shooting and killing with bullets flying everywhere. While they did exaggerate the number of bullets, what the team didn't exaggerate was where the characters could pick up and recycle guns from. Even though the scene starts with guns, the fighting moves towards sharp objects and then eventually hand to hand, and every moment had to be choreographed with the stunt actors to know when they would pick up the next weapon and where every punch would be thrown. There were 3 different sets built alone for this sequence, and it was one of the biggest undertakings by the art department to get the small details right and make the entire sequence look believable. Evans and his team's attention to detail in crafting their action set pieces has given the Netflix film the honor of having the year's best fight sequences in a film. As we've seen, the film delivers 2 of the year's wildest and bloodiest action set pieces of the year in a movie that is smartly called Havoc. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.